Hey, hello everybody. We see a lot of people have joined and we are extremely happy to see that. My name is Drishti. I will be your moderator for today. So let's start the show. And don't worry, this is not going to be a boring webinar with 100 slides and zero clarity. This is definitely not going to be one of those sessions where you feel motivated for 10 minutes and confused for the next 10 years. After all, our speaker, Mr. Saad, is to the point and practical with just the right amount of motivation and encouragement. He has 10 plus years of experience in the IT industry as a technical manager, working across various technologies such as DevOps, data science, cybersecurity, and more, alongside big names such as Deloitte, Tiger Analytics, and Guidewire. His motto is simple: start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. This philosophy is what makes him an excellent tech communicator and motivational speaker, as he is easily relatable, realistic, and goal oriented. But you don't need to take our word for it when you can experience it for yourself. Again, just a reminder, let this be an interactive session. Throughout the meeting, if you have any questions, please add them in the comments and our team will take note of them. We'll have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session, so keep sending your queries. Now, without any further ado, over to you, Mr. Saad.
Thank you so much, Drishti, for introducing me to this group. And I obviously want to thank everybody who's taken out some of their time over a weekend and joined us to hear some of our thoughts and what we want to convey to this group, right? So obviously, the agenda of this meeting is session is how to get a job in IT in 2026. But before we start to talk about this and start our presentation, I want to just say that I want you to have some very realistic expectations from this webinar, because this session does not guarantee anybody that they will just get a job by listening to this, right? That's not the goal. And I'll be very honest with you, anyone who says that they can give you a job by just paying a few hundreds or thousands of rupees, I want you to run 10,000 steps away from that source and complete your daily step goal, right? Instead, the goal of this session is to break one myth and build one reality, right? What is the myth? It's the myth that I commonly hear from people is, if I get a degree or if I have the relevant degree, I will get a job. But the reality is, if I can prove my skills, if I can really show that I have what it takes, that's the person who gets the job, right? Not the degree, not the certification, but the skill. And how do you quantify that skill? And how do you show to the right recruiters that skill, right? So that's perhaps the first slide that we'll talk about is the reality check that we'll get, which is getting a degree enough these days? Is that all it takes to get hired, get recruited, get referred, get an internship? Now, what's the reality in India, right? So we have about 1.5 million, equivalent to 15 lakh engineering student graduates graduating every year in India. A lot of them are from IT, most of them are not from IT background, but everyone's vying for the same amount of jobs that are there in the market. Now, despite this high volume, there are reports that indicate a significant employability gap, right? That means even the people who are graduating, they are not really employable. And a large majority of these graduates are not job ready, or they're struggling to get their core engineering roles. But yet, how does a fresher or how does a new IT graduate get jobs? One of the most obvious ways is campus recruitments, right? So I am personally a campus recruit. And the question is, why do some companies target campus recruitment rather than, let's say, our colleges, or only certain select colleges rather than our colleges, while we are doing the same course? We are maybe paying almost the same amount of fees, maybe even higher fees than those colleges. And the reason is because getting a degree from a good college with good grades is a sign of discipline and consistency, which means that actually spend that amount of effort and you've shown certain skills to be there, and that is usually enough for the companies to know that, yeah, the candidate could be a good fit. Because again, what you need to understand is these companies are not hiring degrees, they are hiring skilled people who can show that, yeah, with the skill to adjust in any environment, to compete in a highly competitive environment, to constantly innovate and in ways that other not. So when reach out to me and say that also a graduate, I have an IT degree, XYZ colleges, can you refer me? And I asked to them, is that enough? That be sufficient for you to in these jobs? Is that enough for you to get referred? Because how does the company know you're the right candidate? Because companies are focusing on, can you build something? Can you debug something? Can you deliver something, right? Can you work in an environment with different types of people? So in the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more on that. If Drishti, we can move to the next slide. Okay. another reality check, what is really happening with this whole bubble of AI. It's in the news all the time. My father called me up yesterday and he asked me, from like a few guys, you might have heard about the recent layoffs which happened in the day. Can anyone rename which company it was that laid off candidates? Yeah, at Oracle is a company. They are in the process, if they've not already laid off all the 30,000 employees, they're in the process of that, right? It's going to happen in a staggered manner. But on the other hand, how many of you know that there's another company that has already announced hiring plans for up to 50,000 employees in AI roles? Anybody, any idea which company is that? Okay, a lot of people are not aware of that. Few of you might be googling right now what it is. It's Deloitte. So there is definitely some kind of mismatch that's happening. This mismatch happening, that on one hand we are hearing that there's a lot of layoffs happening on AI, and are getting frightened level even with a lot of years of experience. But on the other hand, there are opening up in companies, big MNCs like Deloitte, which is a big four company, right? So what is the mismatch? Why is that is there? Obviously, in this session, I don't want to go into a deep analytical analysis of this, but what I want to talk about is what is AI really threatening you, right? Your competition job market is coming from AI in the HR screening rounds. If you are submitting, you're copying from your friends, just putting some uneven formats, wrong keywords, the tool is going to reject you directly, because one of the pushes of AI is that they want candidates, they want to offload some of the pressure from the HR systems, and the candidates are applying. How do you streamline that? So obviously they build some algorithms and AIs with using AI tools which will screen your resume. So if your resume is generic, please do note that it will get rejected very fast. Don't even if you have the right skills, because you've not put yourself out there in the market in the correct way, you will get may not get screened or selected, and that's your first step into any hiring process, right? So let me ask you a question. Between somebody who says that they wrote in their resume that I worked on a project, as against with somebody who said that I built REST APIs using Node.js with 10,000 request handling capacity, who do you think gets shortlisted, right? So again, in terms of AI, especially at this entry level, you're not competing with people anymore. You're competing with algorithms first. You're competing with tools. And I believe done will have further sessions, a deep dive on how you can your resume and your resume, which increases your chances of getting. If we can go to the next slide. Yeah. What is this gap? Talked about. There's obviously a lot of firing happening, a lot of innovation of AI happening. Companies are investing in AI, but there are also specific recruitment happening in AI. But there is a skill gap that I keep talking about. That have the right degrees, but they're not employable, right? What is this gap? So a relevant example was just last week having a conversation with one of my juniors with 5 years of experience, and his company, they onboarded Claude, which is again an AI tool akin to ChatGPT, Gemini, but this is by Anthropic. It was in the news a while ago. Everybody heard of this, right? And he said the company trained them in Claude, and they asked them to start using it, the development work. And what he noticed was that his work significantly decreased. And he joked to me and he said that, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know what my role is anymore. And basically, just a 5 year experienced person is having an identity crisis in this job already. Now, that's not because he does have or he does not have the capacity to build the skills, but it's a mindset problem, right? He's not aligned of how he can use AI. He's viewing AI as his competition here at work, not at the resume level, but at the job level. He's viewing AI as his competition rather as AI as his assistant, right? And only when you change this mindset will you understand how AI works. How can you use AI? How can you leverage AI to step up your game, right? That's when you will really make AI work for you, because the reality is companies are going to be investing very heavily, whether AI is useful to them or not. Company will be putting a lot of money, resources towards AI, and only future will tell whether AI is really all that's being hyped for. The second mindset I that want these candidates to move away from is thinking that theory is enough. What I've learned in college, what I've learned through videos and certification is enough, right? And what I learned in my college days, maybe I did programming, right? Or maybe I did some basic Python. That is enough. But you have to ask yourself, is that what is being used in the market? Is that where companies are hiring for? Is that the skill set that the recruiters are looking for? Right? That's the question you need to ask yourself. So, because while IT is a highly rewarding industry, there is a constant upskilling required. Either you become a talented individual contributor, like a say a developer, a tester, a product manager, right? Or you become a talent executive like a manager, or middle management, right? But the common thing about both these track lines, the IC track line and the exec track line, is they are constantly learning new skills. And if you can own up one skill, which is your core competency, and have that overlap with different technologies, in a domain with domain depth, that is what makes you, would say fireproof. That's my word, fireproof. That is what makes you really lethal, right? So we will discuss a little bit more on that. We can move on to the next slide and see that what are the industry trends that there is a market in. Now, this is a overview of projection that's happening. So obviously, like I said, analytic companies like Gartner and all, this is a projection of what the industry is going towards. The market is increasing, right? And we can see a huge spike up in AI. In AI, what kind of a dollar industry is going to be? It's going to touch $150 billion maybe in the next 30 years in India. But what I want you to understand is revenue may not equal to employment. While AI may show more revenue, it's very possible that full stack development or cloud ops or cybersecurity, which is definitely something I've worked in before, and I'll share some anecdotes about cybersecurity with you guys of how crucial cybersecurity in India especially is, right? Uh, these while may show less revenue here, but they may be more employable. So those are the industry trends that you have to identify. Because at the end of the day, India has always been a service first industry. In India, 80% of people are employed in the service industries, companies like Infosys, TCS, Deloitte, EY, PwC, etc. And 20% are in product development, where we are building SaaS features or building some innovative technologies. Our own, companies like Mintra, Misho, all of the companies, right? So where we are building our own product, or we are building a very specific product to solve a customer problem. So obviously, of course, the money also that you get paid for these roles will differ. Let's say if you are doing something like manual testing or IT support, you may not get paid as much as a full stack developer or a DevOps slash cloud ops slash SRE engineer, right? Those are always going to be highly skilled jobs, even with AI, right? So that's something you have to identify that, okay, this is what I like, this is what I enjoy, this is where I want to build my career in. Now, in terms of cybersecurity, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that as well. While this chart does not really truly show the scope of cybersecurity, but in India is one of the countries where the cyber crime is very, very high. A lot of people, is often befundled by cyber criminals, and it's not very difficult for them. But where the money for cybersecurity is going to come from banking sector. So in my previous org, we were working primarily with top Indian banks. I cannot name them obviously, but these are your common banks that most of you might have, your parents or you might have salaried accounts with, right? Till the government did not force them with the new DPD guidelines and with new SEBI guidelines, they were not protecting customer data. That is your data. Your data was being sold or was easily being infiltrated by rivals, whoever, right? So there's a lot of theft of personal information, a lot of cybercrime happening, and this is leading to a boom of a particular domain within cybersecurity called identity and access management, where by the name it sounds, they are protecting identities. How many people know about this? How many new freshers are skill sets on this, right? They are not. So obviously there's a big market here. So what I would often suggest people is try to interlink your skills. Let's say identify full stack development, back end, front end, tech base, merge that with a little bit of cloud, merge that with a little bit of cybersecurity concepts. Or if you're from a data science background, how do you merge that with AI? Or if you're with a DevOps background, how do you step up and starting SRE roles, right? Site reliability engineers, they are very, especially with more data centers being created. As you might know, the big investment of data centers and big push for building more data centers in the Andhra Telangana region by the governments, right? So obviously there will be job opportunities there as well. So if you're confused, don't just chase trends blindly. Pick one domain, one strong stack, and build depth. But obviously, difficult for you guys to know that. So we'll help you with that. So go to the next slide. We will see what is a skill roadmap that you basically need to understand this. All right. So if you look at this slide, it shows a 6 month, guys. The first is obviously you need to identify that, and for identifying, you need mentorship programs, which obviously Asli will help you, other industry veterans, industry to understand, okay, what are some of the, which one should I deep dive, and how do I master these core concepts and the foundations of that, right? So those are first most important thing. Second is, like I said, learning theory is enough, but don't be complacent. Don't just say that, oh, I did this course and I'm good. you need to show the practical use of that. Build some projects. Can you build functionality, some tool, AI agents, debug the problems that you face while you're building something? How did you troubleshoot that? Those are the things that will really help you. And once we have that, showcase your projects. Instead of doing like a courses and thousands of small projects, why don't we just aim at one or two really deep core projects where end to end we are able to work on something, and that will help you get an internship also somewhere, or work with us where we can show you how to be practical about this, how to practice this, execute this, troubleshoot it, develop this, right? So that is the idea of how you will be able to kill roadmaps, and that's something that I think a team will help you. If we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So this is in a way of like what I said, really companies they are not just looking for somebody with just a degree, somebody with just certification, but somebody with the right skill sets, somebody who has shown a track record of working with different people, contain to just working on single project, but interact with different people, have work in communities to build a product, because that's how they do in companies. They're the team that builds together, that pushes the code together, and together. And how do you do that? That is something you must understand. And out and quick and soft skills, a lot of focus on hireability, and obviously companies hire these candidates who have the right technical skills, but the ones who are really able to survive long in the market are the ones who are able to learn soft skills, are able to communicate with different peoples, are able to own whatever they are working on, right? And not just saying that, okay, my work is done, I'm going to sign off and I'm just going to see it the next day, but really take ownership about what you're building, what you want to develop. What recruiters actually look for, and this can only be showed through repos, your deployed demos, your video walkthroughs, in confidence, which comes from one experience of working on such product, and second, working and interacting with different people, right? So yeah, this is what, and obviously your resume, that is your entry level. Like I said, there is a dedicated session plan to fix your resumes and different companies or get referred. Now we can summarize to the final slide. This is just a summary of all that we've learned. Obviously, I know Asli Learn team will share you guys these links if you've filled up the forms that they will share. But like I said, reiterating what we discussed throughout this webinar, right? Number one, your may get you shortlisted because you may be from a top tier college, or you may have done something, but your skills are the one that gets you hired, right? That's the most important thing. And you're not, unlike before, it's not just who is getting how much money, and if you're competing with other resources who has maybe a higher GPA or has done more certifications, but now you're also competing with algorithms, you're also competing with AI. So you need to customize both your resume and your action plan of how you want to enter the IT job market. Third, knowing is not enough, doing is everything. You need to have the right skills in the platform to show skills, right? That's what is there. Fourth, which is the most important, which is something that I have always struggled with, is to have the right mentorship program. Many courses, but what you need to do is show more capstone projects and show more, and have a mentor who guides you through this difficult journey, especially of entering into IT. Because like I said, once you enter the IT market in even a role that you don't like or enjoy, it allows you to later on, right, identify technology you enjoy and go deep. Because I said, at the end of the day, if you're just motivated by money, that I want the highest paying job, you may get burnt out really fast, if especially you don't enjoy what you're doing. So it's very important for you to also identify what you enjoy in, and to make sure that that is sustainable. Sixth point is consistency beats talent in IT career. Like I said, why do IT recruiters go to top tier colleges, IIT, right? Because they have shown a consistent track record of being in a competitive environment and surviving and thriving, right? Getting into NITs and ITs is not easy. Getting a high GPA is not easy. Getting a high, masters from an IM is not easy. So they say, okay, this person, this particular candidate, has shown a track record of doing a lot of hard work, working in dense environment, and they were able to, in a high pressure environment, they were able to survive. That comes with consistency. So we need to be consistent. And like I said, IT market, despite all the hoo-ha and the brouhaha about AI stealing jobs and IT market declining, is not going to happen. India will always be primarily an IT exporter. There will always be jobs. Now, how those jobs pivot, what skills you will need may change. How much you may get paid for the job, which let's say was a high paying job maybe 10 years ago, will that still be a high paying job 10 years later? Right? That is not something we can guarantee. But what we can definitely guarantee is IT industry in India will not go away. We have the mindset and the population, so the IT strength in India very strong, that you will see more and more companies investing in India, building their GCCs in India, as there's a lot of government push, good by the government to promote that. So you will definitely see that going forward. I think that's all I had from my side. I know a couple of people have dropped a question, but if there are any other questions, please feel free to drop in, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. But yeah, over to you, Asuru. You know.
Thank you, Saad. That was a great session. I'm sure attendees who've joined today, they would have learned something. Uh, Let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Asad. I'm the co-founder of Aslidan. After this session, I'm sure some of you might be thinking, this makes sense, but I still don't know how to actually start or stay consistent. And I'll be very honest, that's a completely fair thought to have. Because today, the biggest problem is not lack of information, it's lack of structure, guidance, and real world execution. And this is exactly why we've built Aslidan. We focus on what actually works. Our main motto is learning by doing. So we don't tell you to just watch videos. We'll help you with mentors who will guide you step by step. We have several projects to build real proof of skills, placement guidance, which can actually land you great opportunities. Because at the end of the day, skills get you in interviews, but proof is what that gets you selected. And honestly, if watching courses alone worked, we'd all be experts by now. Today, to help you get started, we are hosting a 5-day free full stack workshop, which is designed to give you a clear starting point. Here, we'll be giving you hands on experience, confidence to build real projects. If you're interested, just fill out the form below in the comments. We'll be sending it to you on email and WhatsApp so that you don't miss it. However, an important point to note here is that this is exclusively limited to the first 50 enrollments only. So if you're serious about building your IT career, this is something you don't want to miss. Apart from that, I think we can jump on to the Q&A sessions. We have a couple of questions that has come up. Let me just quickly read out the questions. Dishti, if you help here, I'll read out the questions here. Our first question is by Bharat. How will the IT industry transition in the next 10 years? Mr. Saad, you could again give us your insights here.
Yeah, I think I talked about it, and the chart that you in this session is where the IT industry is going forward, right? Like I said before, 80% of the workforce in it is in the service industry, right? And that will definitely will keep increasing. Even now, I can see a lot of my peers in the IT market that there are new projects and new customers coming in India, existing customers renewing their contracts in India. So there is India market is still very lucrative for businesses abroad, customers US, Europe, and like I said, there's a lot of push on what I see right now in abroad for AI and data science, and within India, there's a lot of push for cyber security, right? So this is forward how these diversify is for us to predict. But one thing that I can clearly see is, if you notice, thing I noticed in the last 10 years is that there was a lot of emphasis on robotic process automation that was happening, right? Now there is AI agentic automation. That is the next push. That how can you build certain out of the box tools that are working with existing tools using AI agents. Let's say you have an in-house tool that you're using, and that needs to communicate with a ServiceNow or Jira, right? Or some other collaboration tool. Can you build agentic AI tools or plugins will communicate with this and make your lives easier? So those are the skill sets you still need. You still need a lot of full stack development skills, because India now, like I told you, the 20% Indian workforce which is employed in the product development is now going to start working on developing new things, right? Let's look at China. What China basically did was that any innovation that US did, they started copying that. I got copying mindset in India also, and also very unique ideas coming in where companies are pushing investments into technologies to solve some really innovative problems that have. So definitely the IT industry over the next 2 years, the transitioning will be leveraging AI, but I don't see it dropping down or stopping anytime soon. But yeah, upskilling yourself is
Thank you very much. Our next is by SK Ahmed, and his question is, how do we decide which courses to study or skills to upskill? So,
yeah, that's a question. Definitely that's what I think the Australian platform will help you is obviously you need a good mentorship, a mentor who really gives you insights about what's happening in the industry because what you read in social media or in the news is often propagated, through marketing, right? So it may or may not be true. But what I can tell you, having worked in IT industry and interacted with both my seniors and my peers, is that in India, especially in the service industry, there's a lot of push for data science, projects are upskilling themselves on Snowflake, Databricks. Those are some of the key tools for you to learn and leverage some Python or some programming skills, which will help you to, skills because again, or a service first market, data science jobs are a lot of data that you need to segregate and analyze and help companies to come up with reports out of those data, and that primarily that kind of task is being done by the skilled resources we have in India. Another skill that you can definitely learn and start exploring is in the cybersecurity domain, and not just penetration testing, right? I also talked about identity and access management, ethical hacking. These are things that you need to start looking at because as India is growing, both as a SaaS market, as a product first market, there is a lot of focus both from the government, from the customers, and from the investors for these companies and these or these to have really stringent guideline as to how the data is being protected, making sure that the service is never hampered or interfered with, right? So that is something that is a very unexplored area in India specifically. So if you're looking for a particular domain that you want to study in or start upskilling yourself is, start learning about identity and access management, how SAML works, how OAuth authentication works, what is the automation or what are the new processes happening there, from as just managing Linux systems. If you do that, I would say while people emphasize a lot on development, they don't work on Linux systems. So I would say also start upscaling yourself in those systems, move away from Windows and start learning these as well.
Yes, thank you very much for that answer. Our next is from Rahul Sharma, and they have asked, how is Asli able to help in our career? So I think I will this question to Asad.
Yeah, great question, Rahul. So, how we are specifically helping you is we're helping. What we have done is we've built a community of mentors and mentees. So, let's say from the day you enroll into any of the Aslian program, you have lifetime support from us. We'll be into peer groups. We'll be conducting one-on-one free session with you, like a counseling session to support you, connect with you, to mentors working in those specific industries. And the kind of mentors that you'll be connecting have experience similar to our current speaker today, like Saad, with 10 plus specific domain experience. So you'll be getting the best learning. So that's how we've built our curriculum and program with Aslila.
Thank you for that answer. Our next from Sayed Kashif, who has written, with evolving like advanced persistent threats, APTs, and AI-driven attacks, how do you recommend experienced professionals continuously upskill without getting overwhelmed? So, Mr. Saad, I'll do that this question.
Yeah, I think there's a very specific question which freshers are looking for, but I give the guideline behind this, right? There is a threat in the market from AI driven technologies, and you cannot solve that with non AI technologies, right? It's like bringing a sword to a gunfight. You will lose. So the idea here is obviously you need to understand how, first of all, these APTs operate end to end, right? And again, my answer is consistent with any question that you bring in or any technology that comes. Is the question you are asking us is how what are APTs? How do they operate end to end? And are there any frameworks existing in the market that can attacks that happen to you? Like for instance, that there is the NIST cybersecurity framework that is already there. Is that adept at solving these problems, right? Again, adding over it, you can also need to understand is, instead of constantly upskilling yourself in this and getting overwhelmed, I would always build a deep expertise in one cloud security tool. That could be AWS, Azure, GCS. Understand the use of SOC and SOC 2, how that is being used by companies or industries, what are the training materials there. And from AI side, prompting adversarial machine learning that you can help in cybersecurity, establishing that not making sure that like attacks that happen over your applications are being mitigated, right? Or some of the things you can do. So obviously, this is a very high level. This is a very advanced concept that you have asked about. But the idea is to start building experience and one good cloud tool, and following that with your learning of what are the different threats in the market, what are we doing from AI in the market to do that, what can we learn on the AI side. I hope answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I feel like that was a pretty eloquent answer, but if you have any other doubt, please let us know in the comments. The next question we got was key. What does company or recruiter look for in a resume? Now, I think this has been answered in the presentation before, but Mr. Saad, you could just give a few more pointers, and then I would like to redirect it to Asad so that we can go a little bit more in detail with anyone who's more curious about this topic.
Yeah, for sure. I have interviewed many candidates, and pre-AI screening era, right? But I feel like same mistakes happen now as well. Is that first of all, candidates try to over-explain their resumes by writing everything from the sun to the moon about what they have done, and it's like a 3 page, four front and back both, right? So it's huge they write, and a lot of that is probably some kind of AI generated fluff that's added and doesn't really provide proper inputs, right? So nobody has that amount of time to read through such a long resume. So my first guideline to anybody is keep your resume crisp, 1 or 2 pages max. Yes, you might have worked a lot, and you might have worked a lot in different companies, but companies that you are applying to need to see what is the impactful things that is relevant for them, not relevant for you. What you have done, you think, oh, I did this and this is a great achievement. That is not mean a great skill that the recruiter is looking for, right? So understanding the mindset of a recruiter and the requirement of the role and the company that they are trying to fill in for this role is what helps you make your resume better. So making sure that you have the right keywords, your resume is more crisp, your resume is easy to read, not a lot of jargonified English, but very simple basic English, with the right keywords, of course. So you can obviously take care of that. It's rightly said that it should be a trailer, not the whole movie. Definitely, very well said. So that's the idea. So obviously, you will not know this because you are copying your resumes from other people or from free samples that are there in the market or on the website, which are usually not correct because as you know, people charge a lot of money to customize resumes. But but the code of that is very simple. You need a little bit of guidance and mentorship, and it's making the perfect resume is very easy.
Answer was very well said. Uh, Thank you for this great answer. In addition to this, I would also inform everyone that next month we'll also be conducting another webinar on the same topic on basically how to prepare for an interview in 2026. This is happening on 23rd May, in which we have one of the leading HRs in the industry being part of. Speaker details will be disclosed very soon. Next week, we will be sharing who will be the speaker. So, yeah, I look forward for the next webinar as well. With this, thank everyone today for joining the webinar. I thank Mr. Saad and Drishti and everyone today who are a part of webinar as well. Drishti, over to you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us in such large numbers, even though it's the weekend. It does genuinely show how dedicated everybody is to their careers and how everyone really just wants to know things. Thank you for doing such a wonderful job being like breaking down complex topics into such an easy to understand way. We have one comment. Yes. Thank you, Alicia, for that comment. I hope you had a wonderful time and you all learned something new. Please look to our next webinar as well. And with that, I would like to bring this webinar to an end. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, hope my helpful, and all the best to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.